Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 14th day of December 2020. Well, I got to where I was ending, and my computer froze up, and I rebooted. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but the reading's a good one, and I think it's pretty significant. So I'm going to leave it. It's 4 cards today instead of 3. So let's just talk about it. We've got Fehu for the. It's the first rune of the Elder Futhark, and that's the rune for today that I drew. So we're talking cattle, wealth. It's the sending rune. You can use it in magic to cast your intention. And then the geomancy rune is a missio, and that means loss, and it can signal a negative, but it can also mean loss of something that's been bothering you. It's no longer bothering you anymore. So maybe you had a challenge that you were facing, and the challenge is over. So you've lost that. That's been removed from your whole perception and your whole experience. It could also indicate the umpteenth loss by the guy in the Oval Office who's a sore loser, can't seem to understand that he lost, doesn't want to leave. He has his own personal reasons, which I'm sure we're going to find out going forward what those are. But at the end of the day, he lost, and so hopefully the Electoral College vote will go as it should today, and there's no more nonsense there, and we'll be able to get on with things. So it would be nice if the Amicio signals a loss of all of that. Now, a couple things in just housekeeping issues to take care of. We do this at the beginning, especially on Monday. If this is your first time here, welcome. I appreciate you stopping by, and click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. But over on the blog, we have the esoteric influences, both in video and post form. And the videos are published over on the side panel, left side panel. The newsletter, there's also a sign up there just above the videos. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, you get the esoteric influences in your inbox. Also with that, I included the bind rune for the week, and also the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that I talked about last week. That's coming up, although they've been conjunct for a long time. It's been in Capricorn, and now it's moving into Aquarius, and by the winter solstice, that's where it's going to be. And so we will be thinking in terms of expansion and contraction, but in a very profound way. Right now, they're like this in the sky. They're moving closer and closer together. By the time we hit the winter solstice on the 21st, they're going to be right together. And so hopefully you'll be able to see that. I'm not sure if we will or not. We might actually have to drive to a better location to see it, because I want to get a picture of it. I've been getting pictures of the conjunctions so far over the summertime and over the fall, but I really want to get this one. So anyhow, I talk about that, and the idea of boundaries and freedom, and all how it's all going to manifest going forward on this new path together. Here's the bind rune again. If you want to go, and I'm going to actually post this on the side panel. I'm not going to do an actual blog post about it. That's one is just, and I just did a little explanation in the newsletter. But if you want to see all that, you can just sign up for the newsletter. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it just gives you this stuff in your inbox. So anyhow, that's enough of that. So when I'll draw these in the order, or I'll talk about these in the order that I drew them, because I don't think it really, you'll see there's a run on 6s here, and 6 is about benevolence and compassion and greater harmony than the 4 gives you, or the 2 gives you. You think of like shared direction, shared path, shared, that kind of thing. So anyway, we have the 15th card of the major arcana, the devil. And this is essentially a slave to desire. We see the 2 people, the man and the woman, down below, chains around their necks, tethered to a post that our devil guy sits above. We see the inverted pentagram above his head. And all that means is that the focus is on ego instead of spirit. You turn it around, and you've got, the pentagram the normal way, and that's with the pointing towards spirit. It's just the 4 elements in spirit, or the 4 elements in ego. It's just You know, the top one is about where you're placing your focus. Is it spirit or is it inverted in the ego? That's all it is, right? It doesn't mean Satanism, doesn't mean any of that. And here you have in his left hand, you have a torch that's lighting form, or lighting the earth, or lighting the ego presence, or the personality. Because personality and ego are pretty much, you know, the same thing in terms of this. We see a strawberry or a pomegranate, I'm not sure what that is, on the tail of the woman, and we see a little oak leaf on the tail of the man. But realistically, what this is talking about is being a slave to ego, or a slave to desire. And because this is a major card, these are soul archetypes, we have another one. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead, maybe I should just, no, because that's going to give way, that's going to actually explain the whole thing. So I'll leave the last one for the end. But here we have another 6 energy, compassion and benevolence as well with the 6. But here we have a young family taking a journey over water. It's in the wintertime. You can see the snow. The mom and the child are somewhat huddled against the wind, against the cold, as dad is moving the boat along. Into new experiences. This is a journey into awakening, or a journey into new perceptions. And again, you know, when you're talking about the devil card, that's really about perception, isn't it? It's about where you place yourself. You know, are you service to others? Are you service to self? Well, with the devil card, you're basically service to self. And everything at that point is transactional for you. If you do something good for someone else, it's because you're getting something out of it. You know, it's like instead of just a random act of kindness that you do out of compassion, instead it's just you're thinking about yourself. And here you have the other side of that, basically. This would be service to others, wouldn't it? But with the winter, if you think about it in terms of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction on the 21st, that's the longest night of the year, the winter solstice. And so at that point, after that, then daylight starts growing until spring and all of that, and then summer. And then we come back around and we start to lose light time again until we get the longest night of the year, which is on the winter solstice. So we have that, you know, as above, so below. We have the cyclical kind of experience. You know, you have this, all of those energies are employing there. As the sun increases, as the light increases, so does the spiritual awakening. So in a sense, what you could say about the winter solstice and these two particular cards is you've got, you know, in a sense, the darkness giving way to the light. Enter the 9 of Wands. Now, whereas Swords is about the air element and our intellect and reason and communication and all of that, also movement, we have the 9 here, which is about endings and completion, with the, and this time it's Wands, or the fire element, and our creativity. It's about our will, how that manifests. And here, it just really feels like we have an uneasy truce. That things are coming into order, but he's not so sure because he's looking behind there. You know, his head is bandaged, his arm is bandaged. And I mean, he's been through it, hasn't he? And we see the line of demarcation that you see on some of the Rider-Waite cards. You don't see them on all of them, but you do on some. And for me, it sort of signifies we're going from here to there. Or that was then and this is now. All right? So after the battle is won, the battle is over. But did we win? So I look upon this as an uneasy truce. And if you're applying that to what happened in the election, today is the 14th, and the electors do their thing, right? And ideally, if they don't, you know, act against the Constitution, we will elect Joe Biden president today. They will do that. And fulfill the will of the voters, basically. But that does not mean that since, you know, we've had such an issue with outrageous behavior that wants to simply make it up as they go along, right? I mean, you have electors in Michigan. The legislature building has been shut down for the day. I think that's where they're going. I'm not sure, but they're having to be guarded or something, because there's people outside protesting, and because it's an open carry state, I guess some of them may be armed. This is not what this is about. Never was. And so for all of this to be happening now, again, you know, it's being a slave to desire. It's being a slave to the ego. It's not thinking in terms of a higher self perspective. Whereas these people are doing that. They're moving on. They're moving into new perceptions, into a new reality. They're awakening into spirit that's guiding them toward benevolence and compassion and unity and harmony and shared purpose and shared direction. Whereas, you know, these guys, they're just a slave to the other guy, right? But again, the situation, you know, in fact, we could have really put the 9 at the beginning and said, okay, the war is over, but the battles have been won, but it's an uneasy truce. And now we have to decide, are we going to be a slave to ego, or are we going to go forth in shared purpose with one another? Now, lastly, the 4th card was the Lovers. Another 6. It's another major card. All right. And this is I always say this whenever I pull it, it's like, okay, heresy time. Well, I'm a witch. I don't know what people expect of me. Anyway, here we have the sun shining down below. These are the rays of spirit, the rays of source presence, the rays of the creator, lighting the message of the angel. Wings fully extended, arms fully extended, bringing about the love and the balance that needs to be within us. This is a card of polarity. It's either coming into balanced polarity within or with others. Again, that's the answer to the equation of these two, right? Service to, let's see, service to self. I'm doing this backwards. And service, or not this one, but this one. Or service to others. Do we go forward on a shared path, or do we get stuck in the ego of it all? Right? But instead, back to the heresy, we see Adam and Eve naked in their purest sense. So again, when you see this, you're really talking about energy and energetic effect, and about the inner choice that we make in terms of the you know, trying to essentially transmute ego into spirit, you know, hopefully. You have a spindly oak tree behind Adam. You have a fully fruited apple tree behind Eve, with the requisite serpent there, of serpent of knowledge. We're going to talk about that. We see the mountain below, kind of a phallic looking type of a mountain, but look where it leans to. It leans to her. So life bends toward the receptive presence, the mother principle, as opposed to the father, more patriarchal principle. He exists only because of her. It's not that she was taken from him. He exists because of her. I know. Don't write me, except to say, oh, thank you. No. Anyway, but we see the apple tree behind, and we see the serpent coiled around. Now the serpent of knowledge is just that, and so what it's representing are the people that were here on the planet that genetically created us and then offered us knowledge. And of course, the only person that's going to listen is going to be the woman, right? The man's too full of himself, too busy warring, too busy doing whatever he's doing, and the projective side of self that really isn't listening. When you get down to the receptive side, you get the energy that draws in instead of pushing out. All right, you have a receptive type of a presence, and so you're more apt to listen to truth. You're more apt to listen to reason. All right. And so that's why you have otherwise you would have seen the tree of knowledge given to the man. That's not who it was given to. And why? Because she births the species. So someone had to take it, and since only one of them would, it's the receptive, quiet side within that gives you pause, that allows you to hear the voice of spirit, that allows you to see the truth. and to shift your perception toward things that are of life instead of destruction. And that's really the either or that we're dealing with right now. And so with the 6 energy, you've got it 3 times in the reading, with the devil, with the 6 of swords, and now with the lover's card. So we're balancing the polarity within. We're bending all of that toward the receptive presence, to be able to listen to one another, to understand what the truth of the situation is, and then to move forward in shared purpose with one another. So in a sense, you could put the devil and the lovers as the significators for the reading that really define it, but I don't know. I'm thinking maybe, the 9 ought to be that, because now that the war is over, how are we going to come back together? That we keep talking about that, and I really think, and I've talked about this a little bit over on the blog, but I really think in the same manner as transmuting ego into spirit, spirit doesn't get down in the muck with ego. You raise your vibration, and you shift your perception into something that's more spirit based, and you stay there. And when you do that, your vibration raises, right? And so you vibrate differently. The folks that want to behave in a warring fashion, that want to decide for themselves what's true, even though the truth is staring them in the face, it's like, oh no, that's not true. Well, yeah, it is. And so they're going to make some decisions here that keep them on the level of the devil, and being a slave to desire instead of a slave to the truth, basically. So which wagon are you gonna hitch your you gonna what is you hitch your wagon to the nearest star? Yeah, do you want to hitch your wagon to the devil, or you want to hitch your wagon to source presence, the source presence within? We can get caught up in the world, and we do, but when we do that, we're reactionary, and we don't think. We don't see the bigger picture. We don't step back and truly observe the situation dispassionately. Instead, we get into it, right? Well, if we shift that awareness to spirit awareness, that tendency goes away. And instead of, being in this whole reactionary mode, and in the case of the guy in the current guy in the Oval Office, the quintessential sore loser, well, I think we see the difference here. You see it between the 2 candidates, right? You see it between the current president and the new one. The difference between the 2 is staggering. You have one fully invested in himself. Excuse me. Everything is transactional for him. He does anything for anybody else, it's because he's going to get something out of it. Whereas, President-elect Biden is not like that. This is about the people. He's there to serve the people, not to serve himself. And unfortunately, when you get somebody who serves himself, you get other people that are of that same mindset. And it's like, oh boy, it's party time, right? Well, no. That's why you have to close down the Michigan legislature building and protect the electors. That shouldn't be. We should respect the process, respect the outcome, and it is what it is. We had to do it 4 years ago. And as much as it killed everybody to have to do that, that's what we did. You did not see the people that voted for Hillary coming out and being violent about it when she did not win. And we can talk about why that happened, and maybe we'll find out that in fact she did. But irrespective, we didn't do the things that are happening now. And so to try to keep somebody in office in a way that tries to hurt people, physically harming people, that's unacceptable. And so I think that that's where you get the idea of the uneasy truce, though, because they're still going to do that going forward, maybe even more so. We don't know. But I would hope that law enforcement gets it together and stops standing back and simply arresting the people on the left. You got to arrest the people on the right that are doing this, that are harming people, not the ones that are out there simply protesting on behalf of some greater cause, right? I mean, if everybody wants to do that, that's fine. Protest on the right. Do whatever you want to do there, but just don't harm people. See, I'm fine with people believing what they want to believe as long as they don't go out and physically harm people with it. Let's talk about the ideas. Let's have an exchange. Let's have a conversation about it. But lay down your arms. Don't bring them inside. Don't bring them into the conversation. You want to talk about how you believe and the other people want to respond and you want to get a dialogue going. That's perfect. That's what you want to do. But you don't want to bring guns and knives and fists and clubs and whatever you've got into the mix. I know what that's like. I had somebody come to my door on behalf of a neighbor over just some stuff that was going on. We had wanted no part of, but they're forcing the issue. Came to my door with a weapon on exposed. We're in an open carry state. He can do that, except he cannot do that on my property. So up went the no weapons signs on the property. I put like 4 of them up. Because you don't come to my door with a gun, right? It's meant to intimidate. It's meant to be provocative. It's not meant to start a conversation. It's meant to end one. So I know what it's like, Nothing bad happened out of it other than it caused some difficulty between us and a neighbor. But the neighbor should have known better and does know better, but wanted what he wanted and, couldn't seem to stop. Well, ultimately he had to. So, someone says, no, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to do that. Then leave him alone. Don't bother him any further. Don't take, don't harm, don't do anything, right? But it's the same thing here. Either we're going to be able to have a dialogue going forward, or you just got to go on about your business. Raise your frequency, keep it high, focus on spirit, focus on compassion, focus on benevolent acts, focus on making things better. And maybe eventually those that are struggling with this concept will begin to see the fruits of that labor, the fruits of that perception, the fruits of that experience, and come along. And that's what you want. Don't get down in the muck with ego that's not how you transmute it. You transmute it by giving it no attention and raising your frequency. See? So anyway, that's enough for a Monday. And but this is a cool reading, I have to say. I mean, 3 6s in it, really emphasizing the shared experience, okay, and getting into balance with one another and going forward in shared purpose and in shared direction, shared values, right? So that we can awaken to something new. The potential's there for great things if we would just get out of the harm aspect of things. We're trying to survive a virus here. It's trying to survive a pandemic. And the first vaccines went out today. First injections happened today in this country. So we're heading in the right direction. We just need to do it together. And drop the vitriol, drop the harm, leave the guns at home. They're not needed. And they're not welcome. So, but the people are. But we gotta have an understanding here that you can't go around hurting people. All right? So anyway, thanks for watching. And if you got to go out, we had to take our packages up to UPS because I still don't trust the Postal Service at this point with the Joy there. So, and he doesn't seem to want to leave. So anyway, I went and took him to, it cost me a fortune, but I mailed packages to my kids and a big box to the grandkids. And so they're getting cookies and fudge, and I'm not going to say what the kids are getting because it's a surprise. So their Yule gifts are coming, or if they want to celebrate Christmas, they can do that. I don't care. Either way. But they've got their tree up, and it was very cool. We got a picture of them helping Mom, trim the tree. So that was very cool. But I would really love to be able to see them sooner than later, and we haven't been able to. So let's get this together. Let's wear a mask. Let's and a face shield over it if you want to. We're doing that. We're wearing both. Particularly now that the virus is spiking up in our area. It's spiking up all over the country. We're in a real serious situation here. So I hope everybody who thought it was a good idea to go and be with people on Thanksgiving, I hope that they reconsider for Christmas. It's awful to not be able to be with family, especially if you have not been with them. I know, but we have to do what's best for the health and safety of each other, and we need to not overwhelm the hospitals right now because they're at max capacity. Some don't have any room in the ICU for anybody, and so your loved one goes in and has to be shipped off to some other state, and you can't be with them, and that's a terrible thing. So let's try to do that for one another here going forward. Let's awaken to a new perception here about this virus and what we have to do to combat it. You know, if we just all mask up, everyone stay home as much as possible and mask up if you go out. If we would all commit to doing that, man, the virus would have nowhere to go. It would burn out with whoever's got it, and it wouldn't be transmitted to anyone else if we just would do that. But again, that's going to take a shift in perception for that to happen. So I hope that happens. Again, I think that this reading is really talking about that, about shifting our perception to one of a shared path together, and that would certainly be part of that. So wear a mask if you have to go out around anyone at all, whether you're inside or out. Stay home if you can, and be good to yourself, be good to one another. We'll see you again on Thursday. Unless something happens, and we'll come on and do one. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, and blessed be.